Hello, 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 and welcome to the Farmacy Seeds Network live stream. This is the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. This net is basically an amateur radio net. People often ask if it's like CB. It's not quite CB. It's actually a federally licensed hobby radio system, basically. So if you're not familiar, check out amateur radio. Anyway, I run this net. It's called the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. We do it here on our Overlook Mountain Amateur Radio Repeater here in the Hudson Valley. If you want to know more, you can always check out our website at www.omarcclub.org. I think that info is also in the description. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get this net started. Grab myself a logbook here, and hopefully the radio is clear. There was some interesting chatter on a bit ago, but hopefully it's cleared out. Yeah, it seems quiet, so that's kind of nice. Hey, Geeky Gardens, what's going on, dude? I haven't gotten the seeds in yet, but I'm hoping to tonight. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. The Sunday Night All Things Natural Net is an amateur radio net provided by the Overlook Mountain Amateur Radio Club located in beautiful Ulster County, New York. It is generally oriented at farming, gardening, ecology, honeybees, and topics of the like. Although we do go broader sometimes. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get this net started. This is KD2IIN Net Control looking for check-ins. Check-ins, please call now.
KC2UVP.
Oh boy.
KC2NDA, Aaron, New Falls.
Mr. A Squared Ron.
82 TQS, Rhinebeck.
Alright, so far the net recognizes KC2 UVP, Mike, KC2 NDA, Aaron, and KD2 TQS, Ken. Are there any further check-ins at this time? You ready for the fun part? Here comes the fun part. Alright, no further check-ins recognized at this time. Mike, you're up, KC2 UVP.
Well, thank you for moderating, and thank you everybody else for participating. And this net is very important to me because I learn a lot, and sometimes I can give something. So anyways, KC2 UVV, back to net control.
Alright, very good, Mike. Well, glad you came along with us. Let's roll on down to Aaron, KC2 NDA.
Hey CJ, I'm doing alright. Just mowed the lawn and thought about all the leaves that I chopped up in little pieces and said, I guess that's good for leaving them there.
Yeah, or get your father-in-law to put them on his garden beds. That would help those beds tremendously. Good to hear you on the net tonight, and hope you had a good day and afternoon and all that. Let's roll on down and greet KD2 TQS, Ken.
KD2 TQS. Bumming that you stole my segue, but you didn't know. That's okay. So to answer your question, no. I have my chai. I'm happy that that's coming on, but I'm only walking out to the fire pit. I'm not seated in the fire pit. But it was a good day other than that. Back to that.
Fantastic. Well, walking out, that's, hey, that's all right. We all run a little behind schedule from time to time. I'm certainly known to run a little behind schedule. Anyway, glad you had a good afternoon, and it's a nice evening for a fire, so I'm sure that'll feel great. Let's just see if there's any further check-ins, and then we'll go back to the top of the list and see what's going on. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. If there are any further check-ins, please call now. Excuse me. Alright, back to the top list. KC2 UVP, Mike.
Well, hello everybody again, and
look, I'm a little disheveled, and I really can't. I'm disheveled. I can't hold a conversation. So 73, everybody. And I'm glad this net's being held, and thanks our moderator for taking control. Case 2 UEP 73 to everybody.
All right, Mike. Well, I hope you feel better, and thanks for checking in. Let's roll on down to Aaron, KC2 NDA.
Yeah, what Mike said. Thanks for holding the net. I don't have too much. I was going to ask you about probably more tech-related farming stuff, but I was hoping you might be able to share with us some of your projects that you're going to be doing this winter in the greenhouse.
Oh, sure. I definitely could go into that. Yeah. Where to start? Where to start? All right. This is KD2, and well, tonight I took a lightning strike over the summer on the Raspberry Pi that wiped out the Pi 4. And my friend Dave, K2JLV, was kind enough to give me a new Pi 4 for it. So I've reinstalled that, and then I went to do updates on that because the software was kind of out of date, and I figured I'd just update. Well, that was a mistake because then it went to reboot after the updates, and it wouldn't reboot. So then I had to pull that card out of that, write a new card with a new Pi 4 image, install that, install my SQL server and all the other supportive software and packages. And then I took the old card and I plugged that into the new Pi, and then I downloaded all the data off that, so I still have all my scripts and all my other information from the previous setup. So I'll drop for a sec. So in amongst this, the battery in the greenhouse let go, so I've been running everything on a 12-volt charger that makes incredible, horrible noise, and it's been bugging me. So tonight I went and pulled the battery out of the Massey Ferguson tractor to act as the battery in there for now, until I can budget in getting a new battery in there. So that stabilized the power. Currently still having sensor issues with sensors reporting incorrect addresses and not functioning right on the one-wire network. So I ordered a 5-volt buck converter power supply to replace the one that I think got damaged in the lightning strike. This one actually has an LCD display on it, so that's kind of nice, and it's fully adjustable. And so I got to install that. I don't know if I'm going to get to that tonight because there's about 50 other things to do. But once I get the power supply stabilized, hopefully that'll stabilize the data readings. If not, then I got to do some tracing and figure out what sensors went bad, etc., etc. So that's for starters. KD2IIN.
That sounds like an almost shouldn't say everyday thing for me because it's not every day anymore, but yeah. Cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see some new improvements. I pulled the motor out of my power window today, and I was thinking about you. I gotta see if I can get my father-in-law to save it. It's a 12-volt, pretty strong motor. I'll have to check and see anything we can do with them. Anyway, back to that.
All right, fantastic. And then I guess I'll pick up on thermal mass and forward plans for this season when we come back around. I don't want to be the only guy in the net here, otherwise it's not a net. I'm going to jump off my soapbox and we're going to roll over to KD2 TQS. Ken.
TQS, no longer relaxing by the fire pit, trying to slow my brain down, hearing your to-do list and project list. Whoa, Nelly, so that's all I got. I need a minute or two here to let the brain reset. So back to that.
All right, very good. I'll give you a chance to save that over to your hard drive before I begin the next round, and we'll do an opportunity for check-ins here and see if there's anybody else who's come along and wants to join the net. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. Looking for any further check-ins, please call now.
KTBHM.
I knew he'd come out of the woodwork with Raspberry Pi talk. Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? All right, the network organizer is K2BHM. Jim, pick it up.
Yeah, thanks, EJ. Yeah, just getting a kick out of your list of things there. Sounds like a typical project that we all run into. Where for bad luck we have no luck at all. But it keeps you sharp,
great song.
and you're constantly looking and trying to figure things out. So it's a challenge. And I'm not into growing stuff, but now into cooking it. So new adventures my way too. So anyhow, I'm primarily just sitting back and reading the mail and enjoying the conversation. K2BHM.
All right, very good. Well, yeah, that's just a fraction of things that are going on here for fall and getting ready for fall and all that sort of stuff. Let's just roll back up to the top of the list to Aaron here, KC2NDA, and then we'll carry it back through, and then maybe I'll do another dissertation on what's going on.
Yeah, I'd like to hear your dissertation.
Alright, very good. KD2I and net control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. Alright, so picking up where I left off. So once I get the Pi stabilized, I have two new circulator pumps on the way, 12-volt pumps, low power consumption. Be using those. One, like I had set up to circulate heat from the thermal mass on top of the wood stove in the greenhouse to a reserve tank. I think I'm probably not going to pull. I had a 275-gallon tank in there last year, but that tank is 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot, so it takes up a lot of space in the 24 by 12 greenhouse. So I think I'm not going to use that tank this year, and instead I have a couple of barrels. I think they're good. I have to do some leak checks on them. But I think I'm going to put a couple of barrels on their side in there and circulate the warm water through that. And I think I'm going to put some ginger beds and some turmeric beds and a few other more warm-related plants on top of that on the one side. And then on the other end of the greenhouse, I think I'm going to pull all those plants out of the way, and when I can get the funding together to get some PEX tubing to put in there, I'm going to coil some PEX tubing underneath that entire bed, and this other circulator pump will come up out of the secondary thermal mass tank, circulate the thermal mass pot so we don't get too much temperature, send it down through that bed, and then return back to the tank next to the stove. And in that way I should be able to bottom heat the plants, which is always the problem in the winter because their roots get cold. It's like having cold feet. It's just miserable and hard to function. So I'm going to see if I can manage greenhouse temperatures similarly or better using that method, and I may expand that loop or add pumps to it or something, but we'll have to see how all that goes financially and physically. But that's sort of the forward plan for this year. I want to get back to the whole reason I built the greenhouse was to grow things, and it sort of turned into an electronics and data collection experiment more so than a growing thing. And so I want to get back to growing ginger and turmeric because those are two very high value crops for this area, especially if they're local and organic and high nutrition. So I kind of want to gear a little bit back in the direction of some production and sort of refine all the thermal management in the greenhouse. And then once all that gets taken care of, I'm going to get together with my good friend Aaron. KD2IN, and we're going to get the Arduino rigged up in there and handling all those controls, and then the Raspberry Pi will just become the farm server at some point, and that will handle the database and the web page and all that sort of stuff, and Arduinos will control all the peripherals across the farm. Lower power consumption, more reliable, blah. Back to you, Aaron. KD2IN.
Yeah, I was taking a look at the Node MCU today, so that might be something new-wise that I might be looking at as well. Not to switch gears, but some of the things that they have, I think compared to the Arduino, it's like you're looking at maybe 16 megahertz compared to like 80 megahertz or something like that. It supposedly has a really deep sleep, low power option. So that might be something I might want to play with as well. I'm gonna take a look at seeing if I can do that. But anyway, it sounds great. I'm liking it so far. So I'll go ahead and pass it back to Nat.
All right, very good, very good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back to some of these projects and having some of those in-depth technical discussions that you and I have. Also, Dave gave me a Metro, Adafruit or Arduino Metro. It's basically similar to the Arduino, but basically it's already got terminals and all that sort of stuff. I haven't even looked up to see exactly what it is, but that's what he told me it is, and that's what my friend Kiki Gardens here on YouTube told me as well. So that'll be interesting to play with. Also, I might end up using that in place of the Arduino in the greenhouse. I don't know, we'll see. And I know you're working on some development boards too, so I'd be curious to see how those come out for you also. I don't want to leave other people out of the net, so we'll roll on down the list here to KD2TQS. Ken.
KD2TQS. No comments, just enjoying hearing the design. Saves me or preliminary research for what I have in mind for years out.
Yeah.
Back to that, give you more time to talk about it.
All right, very good. Yeah, I'm actually going to be doing a series of videos on setting up your own greenhouse at some point here. You just got to have time to fall back and get it all together and make good, clear, concise, helpful videos. So look forward to those as well. Let's roll on down to Jim, K2BHM.
Thanks, CJ. K2BHM here. So I understand that you've got a lot of sensors placed around the greenhouse, and the Raspberry Pi is pulling them and putting up a database and so forth and so on. What's going on with your Arduinos? You're setting up control loops and stuff like that for controlling temperatures, and I'm kind of curious as to what the rest of the story is.
Yes, excellent question, Jim. And yeah, I have no familiarity with the Arduino right now. I've briefly looked into it, and that's the extent of my knowledge, really. But I do have one here, and actually have two here. One that's authentic, and one that was given to me that is technically a knockoff. But I'm going to burn it with the the ROM of the original, the good one, and then I'll have a backup. But yeah, ultimately, the idea is to use the Arduinos with code loops to pull sensors, control venting and heating circulation, all of those controls in the greenhouse that are currently run under the Pi, which is sort of, it's not as reliable because it's operating system based and because it's more of a computer than it is a controller, whereas the Arduino is much more of a microcontroller. So I want to go to something that's more reliable, because there's nothing worse than having a greenhouse and you've automated everything and then a vent fails on a sunny day when it's 70 out, and next thing you know it's 120 in there and those plants are just getting beat up. So having had a couple of friends who've had Arduinos running multiple different projects for, I think my friend Matt was saying one of their door monitor sensors he built 8 years ago is still functioning today. So that says a lot for me about reliability. I'll drop for a sec. On the other side of that, my concept with the Raspberry Pi or some single board computer like that, I may replace that with something better in the future, especially now that I see Apple is buying into it. I probably will go another direction pretty quickly. But the idea is to use that as basically the database server, the web page server, a way for the data all to be managed. The Arduinos can be standalone. Ultimately, I want to connect them either via Wi-Fi or Ethernet. We might not use the Arduino. We might use like a Node MCU like Aaron was talking about. They're like a $5 development board that does most of the stuff an Arduino will do, very low power consumption, and they have an onboard Wi-Fi chip, so I may consider that. I tend not to want to lead toward Wi-Fi. I really don't like putting RF radiation around any of my plants or myself, especially in those microwave frequencies, but it may be the sensible thing to do for the sort of infrastructure I want to deploy, because it's sort of mesh network based. Ultimately, I want to tie that into a lot of my other operations, and I want to overlay all that data onto a map. But that's a whole nother step later on down the road. So I'll put it back to you for further comments or questions. K22IIN Net Control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net.
Yeah, okay. K2BHM. That makes sense. Yeah, the Raspberry Pi has a lot of power to it, but it's also a very busy thing. Linux is a very busy operating system with a million things going on at once.
Yeah.
Whereas your Arduino, pretty much, you tell it what to do and it doesn't go off and do other things. It just does what you tell it to do. So
Yep.
I can see where that would be much more reliable and probably lower power consumption.
Way lower.
Lots of positives. Okay.
Yep.
Makes sense. Thanks. K2BHM.
Yep, very good, very good. And yeah, you touched on a couple of points. Yeah, Linux is pretty busy, and like you said, the Arduino's standalone, doing what you set it to do, and that's it. The other advantage to that is the Arduinos are a little bit cheaper, especially if you buy the knockoff board and burn your own ROM or whatever, or build your own, which may be an option in the future. They're a little bit cheaper when you take a lightning strike every season and it wipes out, a Raspberry Pi this year is an $80 Pi. Like last year I think it was a $50 Pi. The year before that it was a $35 Pi. But still, every year the price of that goes up, and like there's no point in wasting that like that. So I would put that probably in a more protected place, maybe in the barn, maybe in a more central location or something. But yeah, ultimately that's kind of the architecture that I want to develop. Eventually that could be tied into drones and aerial photography. Farm-based robots. I have a whole bunch of, crazy ideas, but of course, it comes down to money and time to actually develop them, but we'll see how that all goes. I want to pause here and make an opportunity for any further check-ins. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. If there are any further check-ins, please call now. Alright, no further check-ins recognized at this time. We're going to roll back to the top of the list. KC2NDA, Aaron.
So much information, so little time. I was going to ask you about, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but do you have any way of getting pH values, any kind of sensors that you've seen that'll do keep them in the soil and then do a pH reading?
I have seen sensors somewhere along the way. I did sort of I did a lot of research regarding pH, probably 5 or 8, maybe even 10 years ago now, monitoring pH of water, pH of soil, all sorts of stuff like that, and relating it to plant health, nutrient availability, and that sort of thing. Along the way, I had looked for pH sensors for something like that. I think the cheapest one I found at the time was like $90, but I'm pretty sure that maybe Steve K2GOG or maybe Dave K2JLV had shared a pH sensor that they found with me more recently. It was cheaper. The thing I found with pH meters, even back in the day, way back, maybe 15 or 20 years ago, I had a pH meter for a hydroponic system I was using, and I bought one that was a little less expensive, and it just died within like 6 months. So I find that a good pH meter will last you, and a cheap pH meter or cheap pH sensor won't. I don't know from a technical perspective of the actual sensor what's involved in the difference between a good one and a bad one, but I'd love to do some research on that. I definitely would like to add that to the whole system. So I'll put it back to you. Open source.
KC2NDA. I would like to see if we can do something like that.
Yeah, no, the Metro is not the clone, Geeky. That's one that Aaron built, a board he actually built.
Something. I haven't looked in a while myself. The one I bought, I think I was doing some stuff for a research paper, and it was very expensive, and I tore it apart, and it was a piece of crap inside.
Yep.
So, yeah, it would be nice to have something that is cheap just so we can tear it apart or play with it, and if it breaks, we can replace it easy. But I would like to see that as well.
That's true, Geeky.
Anyway,
That's what he's doing, but with some added functions.
Control.
Alright, very good. And I want to forward a comment here from YouTube to Geeky Gardens. This is a friend of mine down in Florida. He's a retired programmer. I did 30 years of programming, so I know you guys would have an excellent conversation should you ever connect via some other channel than through this. But he says anyone can just buy all the components and build their own Arduino. And I was telling him that you're building one of your own. I don't know, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Unless we want to go on next round on that, it's up to you.
Yeah. All right, yeah, we'll pick it up next round. That way we keep a rotation here. Let's roll on down to KD2 TQS. Ken.
KD2 TQS. Since I can't punt the ball backwards, I'll pass it forward to the next round. Back to net.
All right, very good. We'll roll on down to Jim, K2 BHM.
Yeah, okay. K2BHM here. Yeah, I could see where a pH sensor would be a good addition to it. They were very complex in the past. I don't know what's out there now. They did have some pretty stringent requirements to them. You had to keep them moist all the time, or they would dry out and go bad. You had to calibrate them against known buffers, so forth. So I don't know, like I say, how much they progressed, but that's an interesting point. K2BHM.
Yes, you touched on all the important points. They are pretty finicky. They do need to be calibrated pretty frequently. And like you said, most of those sensors, at least the old ones that I have dealt with, had to be kept moist. I actually have a pH sensor for fluids here from back when I was testing all different water sources, pH and that sort of thing. And that's a nice one. I think that sensor was $120 or something like that. It's a pocket-sized sensor. It's really nice. It does pH and TDS, or total dissolves the solution, or total dissolved salts. Sorry, I can't seem to speak. But yeah, so those are the things we'd have to consider. At the end of the day, pH is really just measuring potential hydrogen. But how do you do that? I don't know. Maybe we should look into the technical aspect of it. Maybe we could develop something better than what's out there. Who knows? But I think we should probably take a look and see what we can find already available rather than reinvent the pH wheel. With that, let's just take a pause here and see if there's any further check-ins. This is KD2IIN Net Control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. If any further check-ins, please call now.
KD2, KJU, Jet.
All right, the net recognizes KD2, KJU, Jed. If any further check-ins, please call now. All right, no further check-ins recognized at this time. KD2, KJU, Jed, how are you this evening?
How's it going, CJ? And everyone else on the net. I kind of just turned my radio on, so I haven't been listening too much. But everything's going pretty good here. Most of my outdoor crops, besides some peppers I still have going, are still, the peppers are good. But everything else is pretty much eased over. I've got some chard and I can't remember what the name of this other plant that just keeps growing is. But yeah, everything was pretty successful for me this year, besides a groundhog. And I always hear people complaining about groundhogs all the time, and I was like,
round after round.
They sound pretty easy to get rid of. Well, I learned something.
No,
they're awful,
sneaky.
and they are not easy to get rid of. But well, I guess you can shoot it, but I'm not in a position to do that. But yeah, besides that, yeah, it went pretty well here this summer overall. But I will send it back to Net Control, KD2KJU.
Very good, Jed. I'm glad you had a good growing season, and yeah, I'm pretty well done here as well, except for a few seeds to harvest and that sort of thing. Everything else is pretty much in transition to the greenhouse. I'm getting that set up and booted up and ready to go. So A lot of work around getting all that up and functional, fixing existing problems, and creating new things in the greenhouse, or new problems, depending on how you look at it. Anyway, glad you made the net, and we'll roll on back up to Aaron, KC2 NDA.
First, I just want to say hi to Jed. I haven't talked to him in a long time. He sounds good, and hope you're doing well. So I'll go ahead and talk about one of my new projects that I'm working on. I was getting kind of a little bit tired of the Arduino, using the actual Arduino boards and having to connect a whole bunch of different devices all at once.
I appreciate your tongue
and
biting,
having wires interconnect and everything else. And I don't know where my serial port is, or my serial port card, or I don't know where this other board is. I don't know where all these other boards are, and it's a real pain in the neck. So I decided to design one that had it all built in. And I'll drop for a sec. So I decided Arduino is just basically an avid chip, and it's got a whole bunch of different circuitry on it. One to plug into your USB to program it, so it's got some circuitry there. It does have some voltage regulation circuitry, and it does have all of the breakout pins, or digital I/O, or analog and digital. So I decided to actually take the board. I based the processor on the Arduino Uno. They have a pretty decent, for future expansion for Ethernet, and that's been proven to work very well. So I decided to use that processor, that Admil microcontroller. And then so what I did was I designed a buck converter, which basically will take like 12 volts and pull it down to 5 volts for the rest of the circuitry. And then that will basically make it so it can run very efficiently. Buck converter is very efficient without causing heat, and heat is basically lost. Then I decided to throw on a Max 232 chip for the serial, for TTL to serial logic conversion, and that's pretty cool. That's basically for taking the microcontroller uses the TTL 5-volt logic, and if you want to hook up a serial device, you would have to. That usually swings from like 10 positive 10 to negative 10 volts. So this chip will actually do that for you. And so on the board I used a phono, or a stereo jack, instead of the actual 9-pin. So you can just grab a simple cable to plug that in. Simple serial cable, stereo cable, that is. I'm working on it right now that's using that, so that's why I decided to choose that. And I have a current sensor, so that way you can check current on a circuit. So if you wanted to, say, check and see if your fans, let's say if you have fans in a greenhouse as an example, usually when there's a load on the fan, usually it means the fan is starting to go bad. So, a higher load than normal. So, you could have something that would say, okay, I have 5 fans in the greenhouse, and let's say it's running, an amp or something like that, and all of a sudden it ramps up to like 1.2 amps, 1.3 amps, 1.4, whatever. All of a sudden there's something wrong with the fans.
Built-in diagnostics.
That was one of the reasons why I did that. And I have a couple other things as well. I'm going to be adding some digital potentiometers. That's going to be kind of neat. There was another chip I added. I'll have to let me drop for a second.
Awesome engineer. Awesome.
I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Nat. My little guy's here, wants to talk to me, so I'll continue on next round. KAC
20. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Aaron. I've been trying to share that with other people, but not being as familiar with it as you are, it was hard to relate just how awesome what you're designing and building is. I really like that integration of monitoring current and being able to detect, fans going bad or getting clogged with dust or bad bearings or any sort of malfunction. I suppose you could apply that to a pump just as easily, and then you would know if you had a pump going bad or a clog, and yeah, that really opens up some options. So thank you for sharing with that with us, and we'll carry on down the rotation here. And when we get to the bottom of the rotation, we'll do one last opportunity for check-ins. This is KD2I and Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. We're going to go on down to KD2 TQS Ken.
KD2 TQS. Yeah, definitely see multiple good applications for what he's developing. Fans, pumps, all those things that you can't normally get your hands in on, see what's going on, or necessarily be next to hear them in the middle of the night when they start clicking or clunking. That is a phenomenal device. Back to that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see that move forward, and I know Aaron and I will be talking and developing more stuff along those lines. Ultimately, what I'd really like to do is start a robotics company geared at homesteading and farming, small-scale stuff. The future is already here on big-scale agriculture. They're using some pretty incredible robotics technology, but those robots are in the $1 million+ range, and I think we could scale that back with the technology we have available now and make similar equipment on a smaller scale at a smaller price scale and make it affordable for a whole bunch of reasons. Part of that being maintaining small farms connected to communities and supporting them with the technology we have, but without having to have that multi-million-dollar price tag, and therefore having to farm massive 1,000-acre monoculture systems. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. But anyway, those are just ideas at the moment. Let's roll on down to Jim, K2 BHM.
Thanks, CJ.
Oh, he's loud.
This is starting to sound very familiar. It sounds a lot like the technology used in the automotive industry with what they call the CAN bus, controller area network. It's pretty well evolved now. You got a main controller in the car, and like when you turn your signal light switch on, that sends a signal to the computer in the dashboard that says that you turned on the signal light, which goes to the main computer, which now sends the signals out to the other computers to turn on the light in the rear trunk area, turn on the light up in the front, turn on the light on the dashboard, and each one of these remote computers is sensing the current that the light bulb is actually taking. And if it's happy, it's not too high or too low, it doesn't set an error, but if it's out of parameters, it will tell you that you've got a shorted circuit or a blown bulb, whatever. Let me drop for a second. And it goes beyond that to measure the current load of various different solar lights, the relays, and stuff like that. It knows that your purge canister is not operating purge properly, and all kinds of things like that, and sensors transmitting information back and forth. Quite an involved network, quite capable, and it's part of the OBD2 system that guarantees that your car is properly performing to
emission standards,
specs for emissions and so forth.
Which is why you have to pay $1,000 for a converter.
There's a lot of technology out there,
when it goes
and
bad.
you might be able to borrow some circuits that are already available and adapt it to what you want to do. K2BHM.
All right, Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Jim. And yeah, I know the CAM2 and ODB, all that sort of stuff. I'm not super familiar with it, but I do know it's pretty involved. I know heard a few conversations recently talking about how the O2 sensor and the catalytic converter interact through that computer, and how it does checking on the O2 sensor and CAT to make sure that they're working correctly. Very interesting technology. I have looked into using some of those pieces and porting them over to this sort of stuff, but I find that most of them aren't in the same temperature range. For instance, I did look at using O2 sensors actually in hydroponics years back, but most of those O2 sensors need to be 200 plus degrees before they function correctly, so you had to buy O2 sensors that were geared for colder temperatures. So every time I looked into that, I found they just didn't port over well. And at the end of the day, I think I'd rather just develop my own technology. But I definitely always have my eyes and ears peeled on that sort of thing, and I'm always willing to incorporate something if it's easy and it works well, or is the right sensor or tool for the job, so to speak. With that, let's roll on down to KD2, KJU, Jed.
Thanks, CJ. KD2, KJU. Aaron, how's it going? I haven't heard from you in a long time either. Glad to hear you as well. I can hear you on the input great, actually. You and Jim, actually. I can hear you both really well. I've been hearing about that chip for a while, but this was the first time it was actually explained to me. And that sounds awesome and a really great idea. Yeah, definitely. Are you going to be selling them, or is this a personal thing? I'm wondering about that as well. But yeah, good to talk to you. CJ, I have been moving some plants inside, and I have I think 3 rosemary plants, and they're not doing great. They're pretty small, probably all about a foot tall. And my idea was to just kind of get a big, probably 7-pound or 7-gallon pot, and just kind of stick them in there over winter. Is that a bad idea, or should I just kind of cut them and take what I get now? Or I'm not really doing it to keep them going. I'm kind of doing it just for fun. So is that a stupid idea, or just why not kind of thing? Back to you, KD2, KJU.
This is KD2 and Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. Yeah, I would stick them in a big 7-gallon pot, all 3 of them together. If you can get some good potting soil, like Costa Maine potting soil, I'd put them in something like that. I'd bring them in and keep them in, nice room temperature, 65, 70 degrees, even warmer they'll take. Keep them well watered, and if you can, give them a little bit of supplemental lighting. If you can't, get them as much daylight in the window or whatever that you can give them. And I think you'd be surprised. They'll actually perform pretty well as long as you give them a little love.
All right, yeah, they're going to be going in a corner that does get good afternoon light, not morning light, but I'm trying to think of a bunch of things to put together, just so I have them around winter. Just something to, I don't know if I'm going to play around with them, but just something to keep it going during the winter. I enjoy growing stuff. I do not have a greenhouse yet. I did think about wrapping my porch in plastic to keep some stuff out there, screened-in porch, but, there's not too much sun. But, the thought's there. I'd like some more green stuff around winter when, as much as I love it, it's just nice to have some of that stuff inside.
Totally understand.
All right, back to net, KD2, KJU.
All right, very good, Jed. Yeah, and rosemary is one of the easiest ones to do that with. So bring them in, care for them, and you'll probably be able to snip a little bit off of them from time to time and cook with them. And I'm with you. It's a huge part of the reason I built the greenhouse. I just wanted to be around green plants in the winter when it's cold out, and boy, it is nice to go in there when it's nasty out and smell fresh rosemary, or grab a couple of sprigs and come in and cook something with them. So yeah, you won't be disappointed in that, I don't think. Hey, what's the worst case scenario? They die on you and you got to get some new ones in the spring. No big deal, no major loss. So I would say, yeah, go ahead and do it. All right, let's roll on back to the top of the list. KC2 NDA Aaron. This is KD2 IIN Net Control. Carry on.
Carrying on. So yet another chip.
Yes, exactly.
That will actually
finger through it.
it's an optocoupler, and so what you can do is, let's say if you have a computer or some kind of device you want to push a power button on. So like as an example, usually a reset switch will ground out one of the legs, or a power switch, let's say on your computer. You can actually pop in two leads on the two pins that come off of the computer, and then you can plug it into this device, and if you want to reset or push the button momentarily, this will allow it to kind of isolate the different circuits, so you don't have problems with different voltage supplies or let's say a grounding loop. So this chip will basically isolate the circuits, and it allows you to have two different switches. So eventually, I might add more to be able to maybe you can control different if you have more than two devices. So that's another thing I've added. I have a couple projects that I can use this board for universally, which is the whole goal is to say, hey, I want to use it for this. So you're not using 4 or 5 different types of boards. The board is pretty small now. It's I think about 120 millimeters by about 20, something like that. And the connectors are what takes up the room. I might try to find some kind of a different way to do it to make it smaller. But other than that, it's pretty small as it sits. I know it's going to grow.
For reference, that's an Arduino.
The next version, I'm going to
Also
probably
pretty
add
small.
Ethernet onto it. Thinking about Bluetooth, I might actually add Bluetooth as well as an option. But it all depends on what projects I have them for.
Don't mind the dirty fingernails,
That's
by
the
the way.
board in a nutshell. I just got confirmation that it's in delivery as of yesterday. So we'll see how long it takes to get here from Slow Boat China with all the stuff with COVID going on. So, all right, back to net.
All right, very well. Thank you for sharing that with us, Aaron. And yeah, things are taking a little bit longer than usual coming from China. Anyway, yeah, that's awesome. And boy, it would be cool to stack one of those right next to the Pi server and be able to reset the Pi server in the event that it hangs up or something. Anyway, lots of flexibility and options there for such a small board, and really looking forward to seeing that develop forward more. Let's roll on down to KD2 TQS, Ken.
KD2 TQS. Wow. Back to now.
All right, very good. And let's roll on down to Jim, K2 BHM.
Yeah, KGB Jim here. Yeah, sounds cool. Yeah, I can see where you wouldn't work out too good with the automotive oxygen sensors. They're meant to be in the exhaust stream, so they don't really do much good until they get up to about 900 C, and then they start to wake up and perform. And nowadays they actually put a heater in to get them up to temperature quicker so they can put out less pollution while they're warming up. The other oxygen sensor that's typical is portable heating systems. They have an oxygen depletion sensor. And it's kind of a joke because basically there's a pilot light that's just barely keeping the thermocouple working. And if the oxygen level in the room goes down too much, the efficiency of the pilot light goes down, and it can't keep the thermocouple hot anymore, and it shuts the gas valve off. So that's not really you're trying to do. So, anyhow, yeah, sounds cool, Aaron. KGBHM.
Yeah, for sure. And I did look into, dissolved oxygen sensors, submersible for water, for hydroponics, but I've since evolved from hydroponics. If you don't have the soil biology in there, it just doesn't, it's not the same thing. And hydroponics, as flexible and capable as it is incredibly energy intensive between pumps and fans and all the supportive infrastructure. And then all it takes is one power glitch, and now all your plants die in 24 hours. So, or at least take tremendous shock. So I've moved on from that. But as I recall, looking at dissolved oxygen sensors, I think the lowest price I found for one of those is in the $200 range, and I think they went up pretty significant from there, depending on what grade you bought. And of course, you'd want something lab grade, so you'd have some sort of wear life out of it. So anyway, I have not been back to look at sensors all along those lines, pH, dissolved oxygen, etc., in recent years, but that's something I want to do. Part of the reason for involving the Arduino is that nice onboard analog to digital converter, so that'll make it so we can use analog sensors and convert those sensors to digital signals or digital data, and then pipe that to the database, and then we have a little bit more flexibility, and it'll make things nice. Anyway, this is KD2 and Net Control for the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net. We're going to go back through the final round here. We're going to go back up to the top list. KC2, NDA. Aaron, take it away. Whoops, I'm sorry. I left Jed out. Hold on.
Interesting that you bring up that point about the CAN bus. I'm using SPI, which is Motorola, designed by Motorola, which I didn't know about until recently. That's the standard communication I'm going to be using on mine. And as CJ stated, probably add a couple multiplexers in there so you can have a whole bunch of different strings of, let's say, one-wire circuits. It's in its infantile stages, but it's basically going to be used for what I need it for now. And I'll probably have to work out bugs, I'm sure, because creating the circuit and getting it made and everything else is great, but now test it and oops, I have something reversed, or that's the fun part, but it also can be very frustrating. So I'm excited to be able to help CJ with this, and hopefully we can get some of this stuff used in the greenhouse. So all right, back to Net.
All right, very good. Thank you, Aaron. And I'm sorry, Jed, I totally skipped you on the bottom of the list, so I'm going to bounce back down to you, and then we'll go back up to Ken, and then we'll carry back through the list. I did not mean to leave you out there, Jed, on the last round. So KD2, KJU, Jed, pick it up.
KD2, KJU. Yeah, I didn't write anything down, but I was kind of sitting there being like, all right.
Did I get skipped?
I guess I'm going to keep it up with my my last winter. I go to the Cape for quite a bit of the winter, and when I came back, there was no house plants or anything like that. So I kind of have been on eBay and buying, nothing special or anything like that, but just, see something, it looks pretty neat. And my other requirement is it's basically very hard to kill. So I got a pothos, I think it's called, wandering Jew plant. Hopefully that's the real name. What's the other one? Moldova. I can't remember the name of all of them, but I was just kind of buying different stuff that seemed like it was really easy to grow. Not that I have too much of it or anything like that, but my goal was to successfully grow it and, repot it somewhere else around the house or give it away or something like that. I wish I did have a greenhouse, and I'm thinking that it wouldn't be too tough to do.
Yeah.
My cousin has been saving windows to try to put something like this together. He's a carpenter, so he is quite, a decent just had to rewatch some of your videos because I really enjoyed watching your videos of the greenhouse. They were pretty awesome to watch, and you know, made it seem like it was something I could hopefully do myself. But I also don't have the property. But yeah, I guess that's all for me right now, and I will send it back to Net Control. And thanks for picking me back up, CJ. KD2KJU.
All right, very good, Jed. Yeah, I would say I would definitely, not just go out and get a bunch of plants. If you try a greenhouse out your first year, try it out. You'd be surprised how hard it is to keep those temperatures in there. Although, if you do something attached to the house, maybe have a better chance at that. But you'd be surprised how little insulation you get from windows or plastic. So be prepared to provide lots of thermal mass or lots of heat source, and also be prepared to cool it when the sun comes out. Anyway, I don't want to get too far into that all tonight, but I wish you well with it. And look into do-it-yourself DIY self-watering planter. Look that up if you're going to be going away, because that would be a good way to keep good moisture for the rosemary without drowning them. All right, let's see. We went through Aaron on final round. We're going to go back to Ken, KD2TQS on the final round. Ken, pick it up.
KD2TQS, rolling back
Yeah,
to your
I love my
original comment
greenhouse.
about robotic companies. You've got an excellent niche and the right perspective. The thing with big companies and big tech who makes the money to
Yes,
do
it does,
R&D,
Portable Tree.
they're locked into a cycle that they need big market if they're going to recoup their investment. And they don't have the perspective of looking at the smaller guys. They don't even see them. They're not on their radar at all.
Got to
You've
be good,
got an
though.
excellent niche to work on, and one that actually can use those products more so and more efficiently than the big boys. So
That was my thought, too.
that's all I got. Back to Net.
Well, thanks, Ken. I'm glad to hear you say that, and yeah, that's kind of my thinking on it too. So I'm glad to hear that echoed from somebody else without my prompting. So thanks for that. I really appreciate it. All right, let's roll on down to Jim, K2BHM.
Yeah, not much more to add.
wow,
Just
that's
kind of browsing around here a little bit, looking up SPI interfaces on the Arduino and CAN, and it looks like SPI is a
Serial programmable interface.
host to, master the slave, but you can't say that anymore. Whereas CAN bus is a peer-to-peer network. All the data's
okay.
out there, and whoever needs it grabs it.
Interesting.
So, interesting, the differences and complexities of it. K2BHM.
Very interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that, Jim. I didn't realize that one was peer-to-peer and one was master-slave. That's interesting. I hadn't really considered the network infrastructure for this. That's something I'll have to think about what's the best way to do in the future. Probably more peer-to-peer style than anything else. Anyway, let's give Jed his final round, and then I'm going to wrap this up because I got to move on to the next stream. This is KD2 Net Control for the Sunday night All Things Natural Net. KD2 KJU. You around?
KD2 KJU. I don't have much more to add. I did have a list of questions I had actually for this net, but I cannot find it right now. There's a couple things I got frustrated with this year. Wasn't near the radio, wrote them down, but I guess it's for another net. All right, CJ, thanks for running the net. Good evening to everybody else on the net. Aaron, good to hear you. I'll say 7-3. Thanks a lot, CJ. KD2KJU.
All right, very good, Jed. Well, thanks for joining the net, and dig those questions up, and we'll address them on the next net next Sunday if you're around. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. So at this time, let's see. Let me do some announcements quick. This has been a session of the Sunday Night All Things Natural Net, sponsored by the Overlook Mountain Amateur Radio Club, located in beautiful Ulster County, New York. If you want to know more about our club, you can always visit our website at www.omarcclub.org. That's whiskey, Oscar Mike, Alpha, Romeo, Charlie, Lima, Uniform Bravo, Oscar Romeo, Golf. A few nets that run on this repeater. 8:35 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. is the OMARC Daily Net, run by AC2UQ in the morning and rotating net controls in the evening. And on Thursday nights at 8 p.m., K2JLV runs the Thursday Night Net, which is more amateur radio, Raspberry Pi, and technically oriented. Much like this net was tonight, but even more so. That's an excellent net with excellent participation. I hope you'll check that out as well. I just want to make a quick announcement here. We do have elections coming up here in the club. We're looking for nominations for officers for multiple positions. And I don't have time to read that announcement at the moment, but just keep that in mind. Send any submissions forward to either the president of the club or someone in the club, and we'll get them forwarded. If you're not a member of the OMARC Club, I'd love to have you join us. Anyway, that's it for announcements. This has been a session of the Overlook Mountain Amateur Radio Club, Sunday night, all things natural net. 7-3s, everyone. Thank you for participation. Greatly appreciated. This net is officially closed and this frequency is back under regular amateur use. Thanks to all those participated. KD2IIN will be clear. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. And I'm going to switch over to Paranormal Portal. So I'm going to go ahead and run the outro here. But thank you guys for coming to the channel here and watching and participating. Sorry to cut it so short, but this ran a little longer than I planned. Anyway, we'll see you guys hopefully Tuesday night at 12 a.m. actually Wednesday morning for the Comrades and Farms. Thanks for watching the Farmacy Seeds Network.
talk with Bobo, so I hope you'll check it out. So I guess all I can tell you is that the phone lines will be open throughout the duration of our show. If you want to call in and be a part of the discussion tonight, or you get a ghostly encounter of your own, or some other paranormal goodie that you experienced, or baddie as it may be. But you can call in and share it if you want to at 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500, or look up here, because that's where the number is. It's kind of hidden. But it's like Where's Waldo, you know? It's a little bit of a search, seek and search, or whatever the hell they call those puzzles. But anyway, that's all I got on the front end, so I hope you all are ready, because it's time for bed. What are we going to Titan in the chat says, hey, Brent, maybe you and Don could do a live hunt Halloween. I don't know what we'll be hunting for. Maybe